Welcome to the Lynn Community Television Show, a program which focuses on organizations working to make their impact right here in the city of Lynn. And we've got a very special program for you today. We'll be focused on the 2016 ballot questions. And today we've got Celeste Ribeiro Myers, who is the against advocate for question 1. And we're going to review that a little bit more in detail. But first and foremost, I'd like to take some time to introduce my guest and give her an opportunity to explain who she is and how she's involved. Celeste, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Celeste Ribeiro Myers. I am a lifelong East Boston resident, and I have been examining all facets casino legislation related since 2010, since before the 2010 legislation came to be. I headed the East Boston opposition back in 2013. We were successful. We beat a $4 million initiative to keep a casino out of East Boston. We went on in 2014 when they decided to shift the focus to a Revere-only site and continue to petition the Gaming Commission and the powers that be. And we like to think we helped to influence keeping it out of the Suffolk Downs location. Now, this flavor of initiative is bringing to light something we thought would always happen, that once the legislation came into the Commonwealth, it was just kind of a foot in the door legislation, and folks would be coming from far and wide to try to avail themselves of this and take advantage of this opportunity. So I'm heading the Committee for Sustainable and Responsible Economic Development, not only to protect us from casinos, but to actually protect the legislation itself. You know, folks from all across the state, whether they've been proponents, opponents, have had any kind of opinion about the legislation since the beginning of time, they all oppose this initiative because it circumvents the nature of the legislation, and it circumvents the nature of the legislative process, particularly the civic engagement piece, which is a petition initiative.
All right. So this has been an ongoing battle for you. You've been involved kind of from the start, really. So, and you were also the author of the against argument in the 2016 ballot information for voters. This is issued by the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Bill Galvin is our Secretary of the Commonwealth, and his departments were responsible for releasing this. And Celeste, you and your organization are responsible for writing the against argument for question 1, expanded slot machine gaming. So what we have Celeste here today for is to allow her to present her argument and explain the benefits of a no vote. So what we've done is we've reached out to each of the authors and worked to develop a network of guests to come onto the program and allude to the fact as to what their argument is and what the benefits of their vote would be. So what we're going to do is we'll review the results of your votes for question 1, expanded slot machine gaming. So what your vote will do, as required by law, the statements describing the effect of a yes or no vote are written jointly by the State Attorney General and the Secretary of the Commonwealth. So a yes vote for question 1 on expanded slot machine gaming would permit the State Gaming Commission to license one additional slot machine gaming establishment at a location that meets certain conditions specified in the law. A no vote for question 1, expanded slot machine gaming, would make no change in current laws regarding gaming. So Celeste, we're going to kick this over to you. Before we do, I'd like to just kind of get your insight on how these questions end up on the ballot so that our viewership can be afforded with that knowledge.
Sure. So a petition initiative is a very arduous process. It can be initiated by a resident, has to be initiated by a resident. You have to have an initial amount of additional 10 consignees from across the state to support your initiative in order to certify a petition, and then you have to fan out across the state. And I think the formula is at least 10% of the Massachusetts electorate that has voted in the previous election has to sign. So with repeal, for example, in 2014, an initiative I was involved in, the first pass, we needed to have at least 80,000 signatures that were certified. So in order to get certified signatures, you need to get a little bit more. So I think we pulled in over 100,000 signatures in the first pass in winter, and we fanned out across the state, and you have to count all the signatures, send them back to each municipality, 330 in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, have them certified, sent back to you, and brought to the Secretary of State's Office for certification. Once that happens, it can be submitted to the legislature. They can act on it, or you can, go to the next round. For some reason, there's a round 2, and you need an additional at least 30,000 signatures. What happened with repeal is that the Attorney General wanted to pass on the question. So we had to bring it to the Supreme Judicial Court, and we had to argue it in court. That's not a step that is required for everyone, but for some. You can imagine, as a citizen initiative, this is a very arduous process. Bring us now to 2016, and this initiative, which was launched by a billionaire from Thailand, Eugene McCain, he came in and hired signature gatherers, and in one fell swoop, came in, collected all of his signatures, paid to have it certified, FedEx back and forth to the municipalities, back in, and brought to the Secretary of State's office, and voila, he's on the ballot. So it's a very arduous process if you're an average citizen. If you're a billionaire, slightly less tough.
Right, yeah, so this is definitely a process in place, but the average person can make their impact if they're willing to put forth the work. So let's get into our next segment. So I'm going to give you 7 minutes to explain and present your argument, all right? And then you're supposed to explain the benefits of a no result, because that's the argument that you're on. So 7 minutes, starting in 10 seconds. Celeste, I would like you to present your argument and explain the benefits of a no result, starting now.
So essentially, the argument for a no vote is that it's just too early in the gaming industry in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Right now, we only have one facility that's open. It's underperforming by almost 20% with no competition in the area. We have 2 facilities with shovels in the ground. We have an additional license that the Gaming Commission has reserved distribution of because they're already concerned about oversaturation, with an additional 1 to 2 tribal casinos on the horizon. We anticipate that there will be 5 gambling facilities open in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts by 2019. And that's something that the Wall Street Journal warns is really close to oversaturation. Additionally, and probably one of the most important pieces, is this is an initiative not intended to benefit the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as a whole. It's intended to benefit one developer who has come in, purchased the process for his own gain. He is threatening kind of the balance that exists, or that we're trying to create and rely on within the gaming industry and the gaming legislation here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Although I go on record far and wide as being an opponent to gaming, but if you have to have it and it's here, and that's important for people to know too. This is not an up or down casino question. In 2014, the goal was to kick casinos out of the Commonwealth. Casinos are coming to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but we still need to give them the opportunity to show that they will bear the fruit that they've promised. Plain Ridge is kind of a warning where they're coming in 20% below projected revenues. And so we have to wait and see what's happening in Springfield. They've changed kind of their model, the proposal that they presented and were approved for by the residents of Springfield. They've kind of reduced their development by over almost 50% in terms of physical structure. So, it's kind of tenuous over there, seeing how that will play out. So it's very concerning that folks are trying to come in at this early stage and tweak things where we already have our own areas to smooth out in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
All right. So we still got about 4 minutes for you to make your statement.
So I'd like to go back a little bit to the actual question language that says this would allow for an additional slot parlor with specific physical criteria, that site location criteria. It's very misleading, and we argued against having it put on the statewide ballot because it is very laser focused and tailored to include a Revere-specific site. The language specifically says that it must be within 1,500 feet of an operating horse track, 4 acres in area, and not separated by roadway or rail. There's only one other previously operating horse track, which would be the Brockton area. That division facet kind of knocks them out of the equation. So as these folks were arguing to the Supreme Judicial Court and trying to get it approved for the statewide ballot, they said, well, it's ambiguous enough. That was their argument. And somebody could theoretically build a racetrack. As soon as it was approved, they launched into their mode of forcing Revere to a referendum and really shining light on the fact that they are focused on this Revere site. Their proposal includes this Revere address. All of their all of their plans and layouts and everything else are very specific, right down to the diner that sits right in the middle of the site in Ribeiro. So it's kind of disingenuous. And it's really a caution to folks across the Commonwealth to say, if they allow and enable this developer to come in and impact this one community, what's to say that someone won't come in down the road and drop a slot parlor or a Walmart or a Starbucks or whatever in their community and circumvent the community process? And that's what we're really struggling with here.
So we got about 2 minutes for you to explain the benefits of a no vote. It's important for our viewership to know. Celeste is against this question. Question being question 1, I believe. Yes, expanded slot machine gaming. So explain the benefits of a no result.
Well, the no result will obviously retain the gaming legislation as it exists. It will give us time to see what unfolds with the advent of the additional gaming facilities here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it will really preserve and keep us from setting a precedent of letting folks come into the Commonwealth by the way of Thailand, Guinea, and Maine. All of the supporters are folks that aren't local. I believe that you have their spokesperson who's come down all the way from Bangor, Maine. I've run into him many times on the trail because they haven't found folks to support this initiative. And it's really a no vote saves the legislation, but it also, too, is a real boost for responsible development. It's interesting to see that folks that have supported gaming in the state and in the region and in the very specific community that's targeted here are opposed to this because it really is an irresponsible proposal plan. It's a 6-page kind of sketch or idea aimed at targeting the 15 million travelers that come into Logan every year. Their own chairperson, Jason Osborne, said that's his goal, to target those folks and to target the money. They said there's nothing to do in Boston or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where we all know that's clearly not true.
All right, so outstanding. You finished with 30 seconds to spare. We're going to open this up to your 1-minute closing, and we'll start that 1-minute closing now.
So, I encourage folks across the state to really just take a minute and really reflect on the fact that in the local referendum that was conducted recently, enforced by the developers in Ribeiro overwhelmingly voted no, 2-1. They had previously supported developments in the area, casino developments in the area, but they realized that this just falls very far short of the robust proposals, hundreds and thousands of pages they've received in the past, and they really think that it doesn't meet with the goal of creating economic development in Ribeiro and in the Commonwealth, particularly when you have their key investors and key promoters located in Thailand and Virginia and Maine and the new partner group in Vegas. This really hardly seems targeted at keeping revenues in the state, but really sucking it out. And again, it's just kind of an irresponsible development strategy for the area.
I want to say thank you to my guests, and I want to wish them the best of luck in November. We're going to be right back after this break with the other side of the argument. Stay tuned. And today we have David Nealley. He is a spokesperson from Yes to One. You can go to yes2one.com and find some more information if you'd like. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the question. We're going to talk a little bit about the votes, what a yes vote gets you and what a no vote gets you. But first and foremost, I'm going to open it up to David and give him an opportunity to explain who he is and how he's involved. David.
Thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate the opportunity and the opportunity to speak to people here in Lynn. The actual way I got connected, and I use this analogy, which may not be the best in the world, but nonetheless, I sort of feel like Marie Osmond for Nutrisystems. In the case of Nutrisystems, I probably would not be successful, but we had a project in my hometown that was very similar to the gaming proposal located in Revere, Mass., and it was a great buoy to our economy. In fact, it was such a significant success story that one of the gents involved asked if I would come down here and share the overwhelming renaissance we had for our hometown. And it started out the same way, by the way. I don't know if you knew, but there's some turmoil. And let's face it, there are certain political leaders that really perhaps should play it safe. It's the prudent thing to do. But there are also the people out there that want jobs and want the millions in revenue that'll come into their towns and help with the schools, that'll help with the state. I don't know if you know, but in the state of Massachusetts, excuse me, over $1 billion a year, that's a billion with a B, is sent out to towns and communities from the gaming that already goes on in Massachusetts. So when the state collects that money, that includes the state-sanctioned gaming like scratch tickets and lottery tickets, all waging and betting that's already sanctioned by the state. That's $1 billion in revenue that goes to the towns and communities. If that money were to be taken back for the people who are purist, if you will, and I understand that position too, if you just feel all types of risk-taking or gaming, shouldn't be allowed. If you're to take that off the table, believe me, $1 billion would hurt the towns and communities in Massachusetts.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. So we want to talk a little bit about the ballot question and what a yes vote will get you and what a no vote will get you. And I'm going to give you 7 minutes to answer our 2 questions, present your argument, and explain the benefits of a yes vote. And I'll give you a minute to close after that. So what we've done, we've reached out to all the authors found in this Massachusetts Information for Voters 2016 ballot question. This is sent out by the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Bill Galvin's office, so far over there. Anyway, we got all the guys from this book, and we're here today to talk about it a little bit more in depth. So question 1, expanded slot machine gaming, what your vote will do. As required by the law, the statements describing the effect of a yes or no vote are written jointly by the state Attorney General and the Secretary of the Commonwealth. So a yes vote for question 1, expanded slot machine gaming, would permit the State Gaming Commission to license 1 additional slot machine gaming establishment at a location that meets certain conditions specified by the law. A no vote would make no changes in the current laws regarding gaming. So I'm going to open it up to you now, David, to present your argument and explain the benefits of a yes vote. David.
Boy, if you'd like, I'd start with the benefits of a no vote. There wouldn't be any benefits for what question 1 could bring with a no vote. And so that's the quick one for me to do. The yes vote, the benefits go on and on. And to be quite candid, whenever you pump millions of dollars into a local economy, it's significant. And I don't care what the town is. If we look at one example that already exists in Massachusetts with Plain Ridge facility, the Massachusetts Gaming Commission has cited that they've already contributed $88 million, almost $100 million in fresh revenue for the state of Massachusetts. In fact, the University of Mass Donahue Institute released on September 26 a research agenda update on the economic impact of Plain Ridge Park Casino construction, overall economic benefits up to $166 million in new business revenues and over $100 million to the state's gross domestic product. Now I understand that some folks have suggested, well, how much is too much? And in all due respect, this would be the only industry where people bring up such an argument. They wouldn't say it if there was a big Starbucks on one block in town and they were putting a Dunkin' Donuts drive-through on the other end of that block. We wouldn't say anything about community benefits, if you will, like what worked out in Everett, if we were talking about a Ford Motor plant going there. But when it's something like this, people just like to be against it for a variety of reasons. And so they bring up those issues about, oh, too much traffic. So those are some other things that you might hear from some of the no folks. But when it really comes down to it, people want more job opportunities, and the revenues that come in are significant revenues. I'm going to go back to what worked in our little community in Bangor, Maine. Our entire council was against it. The governor was against it. Our ex-governor was against it. The majority of all political leaders were against it. Now it's one of the largest, in fact, it is the largest funding source for our city. They're the #1 taxpayer in the city of Bangor. They've been able to not only have direct employment, which was important for our region, and I think it is for Ribeiro too, from what I've seen. But it's about the economic multiplier that comes to that. It's about all the other restaurants doing better. In our hometown, we actually had 5 new hotels built after they built that hotel and brought in the gaming facility. We also were able to do work on our waterfront that we didn't have the revenues for, and we really couldn't raise property taxes enough to do the millions of dollars worth of improvements that we've since done. In fact, we've got a great stage here, and in the summertime we have concerts. We had Jimmy Buffett up there, and I mean a lot of big names, you name it. I mean, they've been up to Bangor now. We actually built a new $65 million civic center right across the street, and we did it with revenue streams that we've earmarked from the gaming facility. So for us, it really was what I would call that kind of best case scenario story. Now, in the city of Revere, it appears anyway at this point that there's some squirrely stuff going on politically, and I don't want to go there because quite frankly, with this presidential politics or politics around certain referendum initiatives, things can get sort of squirrely. I will say this. When their citizens signed petitions, which is what happened, then which they did, to sue the developer over petitions that were gathered in their city. These are citizens of Revere that chose to ask this to be on the ballot via petition. And now citizens of Massachusetts, about 100,000, signed a petition to get this on the ballot. As we all know, I mean, you don't need a history or civics class, the First Amendment not only protects freedom of press, freedom of speech, it protects petition our government, the right to petition our government. And really, it's one of the most fundamental rights. And so, quite frankly, there are some initiatives on the ballot here in Massachusetts that all of us may feel one way or another about, and some of them we have the same ones up in Maine. And even though, you know, as neighbors, we don't have the exact same ones, there's one in particular that's on that's super controversial. But regardless, one thing as a lawmaker that I know we have to do at the end of the day is respect the will of the voter. When the voters are heard, then all lawmakers will have to look at what was passed, and whether it's up in smoke, if you get my point, or any other ballot initiative, they will have to work with the will of the voters. And so my big issue right now, even though I know the economic benefits are significant, the millions of dollars in guaranteed payments for the city of Revere, let alone the millions that'll go to the state coffers. And our model, by the way, is based on the Plain Ridge model, which contributed $88 million already to the state of Massachusetts. I mean, this is significant revenue because this industry is one of the most heavily taxed. Now then that money, those tax revenues are taken by the state and given out to the local communities to be used for purposes of schools and education, roads, police, whatever their needs are in the individual towns. It is a significant chunk of revenue. And I just feel at this point, for people to say no to economic development opportunities is wrong. And I feel that we all need to be sensitive to the economic conditions of others and do what we can to stimulate some growth and job opportunities. And like I say, it's millions of dollars. This is significant potential revenue.
All right. So you got about a minute left to answer this question. Is there any other things that you'd like to add?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly, when I leave it just to the millions that go into the state coffers, the millions that go into the city of Revere, and the direct jobs, people forget about all the other things that make a community strong. And that's why I don't like any company, I don't care what it is, whether it's a Ford Motor or a credit card company or any company being ostracized because somebody doesn't like the kind of business they're in. You know, maybe they don't like a cigar shop, whatever. The reality is that some of these businesses, and it's incumbent upon them, are great philanthropists in the communities in which they reside. I will tell you, in the city of Bangor, our new biggest taxpayer has also been the new biggest contributor to nonprofits in the area. They've been very generous. They've been a great corporate citizen. Now, at the end of the day, I don't know with this group of developers and with any of the gaming companies that are out there. I think, you know, you've got Wynn going into Everett, et cetera. At the end of the day, I don't know the exact market share, the exact dollar amount. I've heard people criticize it for everything from traffic to its location. But actually the location, even the city councilors of Revere want cleaned up, and they'd like to see a hotel or some nice new development there. So, we really, from our perspective, have the solution to bring in the economic development they're looking for, to bring in the revenues that they need, and to contribute revenues to the state coffers and improve the overall economy.
All right.
Now, would it be the first choice? go back to Ford Motor Company. Well, unfortunately, we aren't all in the position to attract new Ford Motor Companies or manufacturing companies into our communities, and maybe it's just where we are in our economic cycle. This is something that works. It's proved even by the Plain Ridge model, and that's the one that we've used on the Ribeiro project.
All right. So just to provide some insight, we got about 2 minutes before I let you close. How do these ballots, how do these questions actually end up on the ballot? I mean, how explain to our viewership, just give us some insight on that.
Yeah, well, actually, usually what takes place is, I mean, there are two ways, obviously, for it to become law. The state can work it on its own, or there's what they call the citizen petition process, whereby you file with the Secretary of State's office or Attorney General's office to basically the ballot question. You get signatures from registered voters. In other words, in the city of Ribeiro, they turned in about 8,000 signatures. I think roughly 4,800 they found qualified for having voted from that particular address with the right name and signing everything right, which is very standard, because a lot of them, you know, they may be visiting from Saugus or Cape Cod or whatever. So basically, you take those petition signatures, get them qualified, which the city of Ribeiro did, and then the state of Massachusetts qualified about 100,000. And then that will go on the docket. So these ballot initiatives, and like I said, I think you've got 4 of them. There's the farm animal school choice, and the marijuana, and our initiative. And these really are things that maybe the politicians and public policy officials weren't comfortable acting upon, but the citizens overwhelmingly said we would like to see these acted on. And at the end of the day, and I think it's the same with this economic opportunity, when the will of the voters, and we're seeing somewhere around 2/3 in the city of Ribeiro want to see this economic opportunity, and probably it's somewhere near that statewide, that when the people speak, then eventually the public policy officials have to act on that. So it would become statutory law, and they would have another revenue stream here in Massachusetts.
All right, 1 minute to close.
Yes, well, I really am only saying yes to one because of the remarkable renaissance we had for our city based off this revenue stream. And a revenue stream is so significant. You can't have somebody just come up and build a hotel and get millions of dollars guaranteed in income. You know, this be way beyond just the jobs and the revenue streams for the city. There are also other benefits to every merchant in the town. Like I said, we had 5 new hotels built after this hotel and gaming facility went in our town. We had several more restaurants built. We had more retail stores come in, and they're all doing better than they were before this. Now, we did manage to combine it with an entertainment facility and did some smart things, and so can't the city of Ribeiro. They can be responsible for where every cedar hedge is planted around the property.
I want to say thank you to both of my guests, and I want to wish them best of luck in November. This information being brought to you by Lynn Community Television right here on the LCTV Show. I'm Sean Donahue from the studios here at Lynn Community Television, wishing you all the best.